Donald Trump is not really doing anything about the pandemic right now, but that doesn't mean that he's not doing anything. He's doing stuff with the pandemic as cover. Take a look at this video. It has to do with his new push to deregulate everything.
Because with millions of Americans forced out of work by the virus, it's more important than ever to remove burdens that destroy American jobs. In a few minutes, I will sign an executive order instructing federal agencies to use any and all authority to waive, suspend, and eliminate unnecessary regulations that impede economic recovery. And we want to leave it that way.
Okay, so what he's saying there is, I'm telling all of the federal government to look for any regulation that could conceivably be linked to hurting business, which we know one of the cores of conservative ideology is that every regulation hurts business, hurts profits, and all of that, and to get rid of it. They're saying it's about coronavirus, but they wanted to do this before, and he just said he wants it to be permanent. It has nothing to do with the pandemic.
Yep, that's what it's again more for opportunities. Like, oh man, global pandemic's going on, and Americans are affected severely by it. Hey, here's our chance to start throwing things in there. And guess what they do? And guess what they usually do on these types of things? They accuse the opposing party of doing these things. Again, it's the same deflection. Hey, look over there. Look what they're doing while we stand right here and do it. It's pretty obvious he's not even good at it. That's the way, like straight up. Hey, I want to eliminate any and all regulations on all businesses because of the pandemic, and then make it permanent after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about? So again, putting that in any kind of real life terms is food safety, air quality, anything that the plants want to do that we've been trying to help keep them from doing to all this time, they'll just do. And then you can pay the price for it, I guess. I mean, people in the areas that he doesn't care about, who many of them are his voters, understand that he's putting these things on you. There's not going to be any pollutants. There's not going to be a lack of any kind of quality controls on anything that he puts in his body. Trust me. Mm-hmm. So that just falls to you. Same thing with this come back to work thing as early as possible. He's not going out and putting his face in front of everyone's face, and neither his supporters, or neither his surrounding people. Just you guys, just the supporters are.
Yeah, and so we talked about a version of this earlier on. So two areas that we've talked about on the damage report about this. One is we've been talking constantly about the meatpacking plants and the deregulation that they pushed through that have not only obviously increases the risk of some sort of contamination getting out there, but it's amidst the pandemic when you should be even more careful about what's going on at these places, but also the EPA. So the EPA has already used the pandemic to suspend reporting rules and other requirements of the fossil fuel industry, which green groups warned gives oil companies a green light to pollute the nation's air and water with impunity. And they're doing that. This is just an expansion to everything. And the problem is, so there's bad news and there's good news. The bad news is that they're gonna find any excuse for all this stuff. It's gonna be incredibly broad. Some of it hypothetically is going to be permanent. The good news is that while he can do this, and a lot of this won't require the input in any way of the Senate or the House or anything like that. Some of it could be challenged hypothetically to the Supreme Court, and with every passing day, good luck with the courts. But the good news is that a lot of this is just as easy to reverse, hypothetically. If you get him out of office, some of this could be reversed. Now, some of it perhaps in a Biden administration would not be. A lot of it, I think, would. The environmental changes, I have no doubt that the reversal of Obama executive orders on the environment, that he would reverse them too. I doubt he'd go much further, but at least we'd have that. And as long as he's there, he's going to have the ability to do all of this. And every one of these, we try to remind people, every one of these regulations is a protection that has been put in place to tamp down on the excesses of industry and protect American lives. That's what it's, or the workers. The consumers are workers. That's what they're there for. That's what they're getting rid of. That's what the stakes are.
Good luck convincing folks of that, because for some reason that doesn't compute. I'm not sure when it's going to come through that way, but people just don't think of it that way. And so when you talk about the only way to maybe stop this is when someone else may come in, another president, and cut out all these executive orders. But I mean, as we've been mentioning throughout this show, the other aspects of this whole plan put into place to make sure that doesn't happen. So dismantle the election system, dismantle democracy, and then also dismantle our protections like this so that there isn't much of a chance for someone else to come in and do these things. It's across the board coordinated effort to do this while also holding on to power.
Wait, hold on. So let me get you right. So are you saying that it might be difficult to convince a certain percentage of the American public that these very reasonable limitations on business are in their best interests, when that same percentage of the American public thinks that wearing a mask to protect them from a disease is the gravest threat to American liberty since the founding of the republic?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Close. You're close.
You might be onto something. You might. Okay. So we're going to keep an eye on it. The issue is we're going to need a lot of good reporters watching a lot of agencies to even know what they're changing. Because, again, a lot of this can be done internally. It's not, they're not going to have one bill that's going to have all the regulation changes.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.